everybody, back to Live with Tim O'Shea. We're live, we're not live, but we are live, and I'm your host, Tim O'Shea. It's episode 8 of our podcast series, and we have a really special guest on tonight. This guy has found success off the field and on the field. He was a former teammate of mine at the University of Connecticut where he played quarterback. This guy, it's a great podcast. It's a great conversation coming up, so stick around for that. But I just want to let you guys know that I am going to be posting a lot more on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube in the coming days, coming weeks. We're really trying to grow the brand. We saw a really great increase in the last month, so thank you guys for the engagement. Keep commenting, keep liking, keep reposting the videos, and we're going to bring you guys a lot more stuff within the coming weeks, coming months, and we're really, really excited for that. So we're going to jump right into the podcast. Steve Krajewski, good friend of mine, former quarterback from the University of Connecticut. What a great conversation is on the way. Episode 8 of Live with Tim O'Shea. Hey, welcome back to Live with Tim O'Shea. We got a very special guest. Is a really special guy that's here today. A guy who's found success on the field and off the field. He was a Rivals.com 3-star recruit and led Colquitt County High School to a state championship his senior year. He played quarterback at the University of Connecticut, Georgia State, and Wagner College. You can now find him as SK8 on TikTok and YouTube, where he has over 35,000 followers and subscribers across both platforms. Welcoming to the show, a very good friend of mine, Steve Krajewski. Welcome, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. I'm glad to be here, man. This is very exciting. I've been keeping up with all the episodes and looking forward to getting into some good conversation today.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me and thank you for taking the time. Let's dive right into it, man. You had a really successful college career. You played Division I, but let's take it back to high school. You went to high school in Georgia and you were a 3-star recruit. My opinion, Georgia is one of the best states for high school football. I think it's California, Texas, Florida, Georgia. You had offers from Syracuse, Mercer, Marshall, and Georgia State. What was that process like in such a competitive state for football as Georgia is, and being a 3-star recruit? Take me through that recruitment process.
Yeah, so I actually started my high school career in Michigan. I played a couple years at Brother Rice High School and then went down to Georgia. And like you mentioned, all those states, we looked at a lot of places to transfer to. I mean, just for football specific reasons, because the football is so much better in the South. But we looked at Florida, Alabama, Texas, all these places, and ended up landing on Colquitt County because they were national champions at the time. And, I figured why not go to the best program, in the country. And it was a night and day difference, honestly, between Michigan football and Georgia football, just from a weather standpoint, from an operational standpoint. The program was ran like a college program, and I think that allowed me to transition into college Division I football really good, with a good head on my shoulders and just, with good preparation. So the recruiting process coming out of a really competitive league was obviously very beneficial. Um, Made a lot of great connections. My coaching staff at the time at Colquitt County had a lot of connections with some good coaching staffs, and it allowed me to, be blessed enough to have a solid career, get my degree for free, and enjoy playing football at, playing some of the best football in the world. So all in all, I really do appreciate my time I spent at Colquitt County and the decision I made to go down there.
Yeah, I mean, dude, up and moving your family down to County. I mean, that's got to take a lot of belief from your parents.
Oh yeah, I mean, I give all the credit to God, and I give all the credit to my family for the support they gave me, and especially my dad. At first it was just me and my dad moving down there, and he had just retired from being a police officer for over 30 years, so it was a big change for him, and we just kind of took it head on, and found found a home down there, and made the best of the situation.
And you had a couple of offers. You had Syracuse, which is ACC team, Marshall, Georgia State. Those are pretty good programs. But you also had University of Connecticut, UConn. Completely different than Georgia weather. I know you just talked about the weather,
Yeah.
but what stood out to you about UConn, and why did you decide to commit there out of high school?
Yeah, so Syracuse was my very first offer, and that was kind of what got the ball rolling for me. I took a visit to Syracuse. I really enjoyed it. I also took a visit to UConn, and I went and camped at Georgia State, which is where I actually got my offer. So I've been to all three programs, and that's really the three kind of programs that came down to me. They seem to be the most interested. But that visit to UConn and Coach Rhett Lashley, who was the offensive coordinator at the time, had really just built a great relationship with me. And I took a visit there. I met Ryan Vandemark. I met Xavier Scott, some good friends that I still have to this day. And it was just a wonderful experience. I mean, it felt like home to me. They did a great job with their visit. I loved the facilities, and most importantly, with Coach Lashley and discussions I was having with him at the time, I saw it as a great opportunity to go in and play early and start, developing my career and developing early as possible. So that was, I would say, the main few things that went into that decision, even with the weather being kind of cold there. But um, it just seemed like a great opportunity at the time.
Yeah, hey, Ryan Vandermark, friend of the show. Got a shout out to our boy Vandy. Um, but you get to UConn and you spent 4 years there. You got your undergraduate degree there, and your career stats: 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. Your best performance came against an SEC school, Vanderbilt. You had 3 touchdowns. But you kind of got to UConn at a weird time, a turbulent time for the program. In 4 years, you guys. Well, we went 4-32 in 4 seasons there. And one of those wins you started against Yale. How do you look back on your UConn career? From a team standpoint, individual standpoint, where could it have been better? Where do you think you guys struggled in?
I think looking back on my career after all these years, it's really comes down to I had a lot of belief in our head coach, our head guy. Um, Coach Edsel, to come back in and kind of revamp the program. I knew it was, a turbulent time, as you mentioned, but I had faith that we could go in and we could just revamp it and get it back to the program it can be. And I think one day we are going to see UConn become a very, very good football program with the resources and the support they have there. But looking back, I think the main, even though we didn't have a lot of success on the field, I think the education there is priceless. It was very good. Um, the teammates we had along the way were phenomenal guys and phenomenal people that, we'll have memories for the rest of our lives to thank for. And I do appreciate it in that regard. I think culturally, in the football program, I think it was a little bit lackluster, and I think that is really caused a lot of the turbulence, that we experienced when we were there. I think there was just a lot of things that guys on the team weren't bought into, and with good reason, but it wasn't a coherent and synergetic, experience as far as football needs to be to have success at that level. And looking back, I'm very, very blessed, as I mentioned, and very appreciative of the experience. Um, and I don't regret my decision to go to UConn. It's made me the person I am today. So, it, you know, I wish we had more success. I believe we could have had more success if we just had a few of the missing pieces in place there. But I do look back at it and have a lot of appreciation still.
Yeah, they went to a bowl game in 2022.
Hmm.
They kind of struggled last year, but it does seem like that the culture is on the up and up. Do you think that's because of the coaching changes, or do you just kind of think it's more of like, more people are coming around the program and want to see them succeed? Because Connecticut, UConn sports in Connecticut is like our professional team.
Yeah.
So that support is very, very important when it comes to that culture that you just mentioned.
I think UConn has the support, has always had the support. Like you mentioned, it's the only major kind of sports in Connecticut that is easily accessible. I mean, the stadium's in Hartford, the biggest city. And I don't think there's any excuse as far as people wanting to see the team succeed. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody fail. at
Mhm.
the end of the day. So I think it all comes from within the program, and I think their success in 2022 was a testament to the coaching change and some changes that they made culturally. Um, Obviously, it it it's a regrowth period still, which is why I think they didn't do too well last season. But I think we're going to continue to see as long as they keep building on what they did in 2022. I think they'll continue to keep having some good seasons and make a run at another bowl game potentially, hopefully soon.
Yeah, yeah, and I would love to see that. I know some of the guys are still on the team that we played with, but
Hmm.
I talked a little bit about when you played Vanderbilt. You came in, you had three touchdowns, two rushing, one passing. You started over Yale, you got a win over Yale. But what is your best memory at UConn? It could be a couple of things, but what do you remember most about your time? What stands out to you?
Honestly, this is going to sound crazy, but I think one of my favorite memories is my first ever completion I had as a freshman against Temple. And I could sit here and just like visualize that play perfectly. I like it was a spacing concept. I went 1 to 2 and I hit Herji Mayala for an 8 yard just completion. And he came up to me, patted me on the helmet, said, "Hey man, like that's great. Like and he just gave me a compliment that I'll never forget. So that's just one of my favorite memories, just getting that completion, having the support from a teammate. Even though it was just such a minuscule play, it was just such a cool moment for me and just something like I can just look back on and just, kind of smile about. So, outside of that, I mean, throwing touchdowns is awesome. Beating Yale is awesome, but I don't know, that one moment just always sticks out to me for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's great. That's funny you say that because my first play ever getting in the game in college was we called it space. It was a space concept. I was the
Yeah.
wing, tight end. I ran a flat, and I was the third option. So you get that one, that replace route, and then you
Yeah.
curl, and then I was the flat. Never got thrown to ever in practice, and just like the linebacker at Central, just kind of he went to the flat, but like came low, so I got over
Hmm.
top of him, caught it, turned, scored. I was like, let's go, livid. Just I was so
Yeah.
surprised. That's funny you say that because it is like those minuscule things, especially in all sports, because it's the preparation that goes into it, knowing
Hmm.
what your progressions are, making that right read, and then getting a guy like that to say, "Hey, man, great job," goes a long way.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and it happens in that kind of way. Like you never get the ball in practice, or you never see that look, and then somehow the stars align, and you have a great memory that you can look back on. So, really cool stuff.
Yeah, man. And so you finished your time at UConn. And when you look back on it, you did have a great career. You came in a tough situation, but you made the most out of it. And I was telling you before the podcast, you were the type of guy that, got guys to rally around you. You were a gritty player. You always gave it your best effort. So, I got to give you your flowers on that.
I appreciate it, man. I would, like I mentioned earlier, I wish we could have had more success, and I tried my best, and you know, maybe in another life, but it was a fun experience that 2021 season, even with all the adversity and things we kind of had to go through with COVID and our head coach getting fired and saying he's not getting fired or he's not leaving, but he's stepping out and then getting fired. And we lose Vandy 1 week. We play Purdue. I get benched. I get started. Like all these different things going on, but still just being able to look back on that season with fond memories and just cool teammates to just kind of go through that with. So, even though it wasn't successful, it was still fun.
And so you closed the chapter on UConn, and did you have any other offers in the portal? Take us through that kind of process. But you ended up going to Georgia State. You returned back to the Peach State. So take us through the process. Why Georgia State? And what happened when you were there?
Yeah, so mainly coming out of the portal, I had a lot of FCS offers and opportunities, but I maybe looking back, should have considered FCS a little bit more. But I ended up going with Georgia State because I had context there. Another offer I had was Memphis, but they wanted me to come in and kind of be like a backup kind of role there. So Georgia State, I wanted to go in and compete and hopefully get on the field. Um, I was excited to go back there and reconnect with some of the coaches that had recruited me out of high school. As far as my experience goes there, didn't have the greatest experience, didn't really mesh well with the staff there and my coach. So I unfortunately had to make a quick change out of there and find somewhere to land for my last season with minimal film. So
Mhm.
not the best scenario to really, go into my last year with, but something that had to be done.
And that's always a tough spot, especially when you're a graduate student, an older guy. You've
Hmm.
already done your time at another place. You kind of want that transition to be a lot easier. What were those, how did you get yourself out of, adversity? What got you through, those tough times when things just weren't going your way?
Well, just honestly, just everything I'd been through, just kind of reflecting and thinking that I could, it's all not meant for nothing. And like at the end of the day, I want to glorify God with what I do. And so I just kept my head down. I worked hard. I tried to control what I could control. Um, Mentally at Georgia State, I wasn't in the best position, but I still worked my ass off and did everything I could to continue to try to be the best player I could be. And I still have some of my best friends from that program, like guys to this day. I've heard like other coaches ask guys on the team that I wasn't even that close with about what they thought of me as a teammate, and they're saying that they thought I was a leader and a great teammate. And I never even saw the field. I was like pretty much rotating between backup quarterback and third string, and I never saw the field. And just to hear that from those guys, and it was really reassuring. So um but just knowing that it's all about trusting the process and just working and controlling what you can control at the end of the day.
Yeah, I saw on your schedule at Georgia State, you guys played South Carolina. Did you go to that game?
I did, yeah. I traveled to all the games, which was really cool. South Carolina lives up to probably one of my favorite college atmospheres I've ever been a part of because
Yeah.
they debuted their light show that game against us, and it was their Sandstorm ritual song that they do, and the chants and like the fans there are crazy, but it was so cool to see and just be a part of.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, what was your favorite stadium? Because I know at UConn, especially when they went independent, you guys played at some big places. Were you
Mhm.
there for the Clemson game?
I was, yeah. I actually got to be on the field and complete some passes and put do some drives against Clemson. Obviously didn't score anything like that, but that was a crazy cool experience too. And that opening kickoff that we took back for our only points of the game was really just an awesome moment. So
Yeah.
Brian Bruton, I'll never forget that one. So shout out to him.
Which one was better, South Carolina or Clemson?
That's tough, dude, because Clemson we played in the daytime.
Yeah,
South Carolina, we played at night, and dude, I'm telling you, that light show was just electric. It was so cool. So I got to go with South Carolina. Um, but Clemson was probably just a better experience because I got to be on the field. So tough
really
call.
felt really felt that stadium pulse.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude, 100%.
So, Georgia State didn't really work out the way you wanted it to, but you still had that 1 year of eligibility left.
Yeah.
Decided to head back up north to the great old Staten Island. Transferred to Wagner College. So you were there for the spring, right?
Yes, I got there in January.
Okay. So how was your time at Wagner, when you first got there? And then I know you were voted captain going into your final season. So take us through, what was Wagner like when you first got there? How was that adjustment? And then, getting that captainship voted on by your teammates, how did that resonate with you?
Well, as you know, being a former Wagner football player, it's a big change up from going to from a Division 1 FBS to Wagner College. A lot of what Wagner has is there. It's I don't know what the deal is over there, but it's pretty much a struggle financially. Um, and it's a grind, and there's you have the bare minimum essentials to get you through. And when I had gotten there, they had won one game in 3 years, so they were like 1 in 20 something. And so the culture there was really, really bad. And that was one thing I knew I would have to try to change or do my best to influence with what I knew. Um, and so the biggest thing for me going in there was, okay, this hasn't been a successful program. What are the glaring issues that I can do that I can help with as the starting quarterback? And so I did my best to do that. And it started with just, showing guys how to work, showing guys how to put in extra time in the weight room, stretching, throwing extra routes, getting out on weekends, going 3 times a week during the summer, like just doing the little things that we can control and showing guys that there's things you can be doing. Because I don't think a lot of guys really knew what it took to be successful at that level. So that was something I tried to show as much as I can, but as far as my personal experience goes, it was tough because I was used to a lot of accommodations, better housing, better food, better clothing, better shoes, all these things that weren't available. And I had to kind of put my ego in check and really just grind it out. So those were the things at Wagner that kind of looking back on that I'm almost kind of grateful I went through because it was a humbling experience and it was something that I've had to push through and fight through, and it helped me a ton out as a person. So um and it paid off because, like you mentioned, getting named team captain, I still like hold as probably one of my fondest memories of college football. I uh, I put in a lot of hard work to earn that, and being voted by teammates to be a captain. I wasn't a captain at UConn because I was like kind of thrown in, thrown around, starting, backup, whatever. Obviously, didn't play at Georgia State, so wasn't a captain there. So when I earned that at Wagner, I was smiling ear to ear, and it was an amazing feeling and just really just rewarding experience. And I think it's probably one of my greatest accomplishments I've had, just for the reason of just seeing the reward of putting in all that effort to kind of revamp the program. So
Yeah, man, and I could hear it in your voice too, how much that means to you. And you know, I was also, at the Division II level, also named a captain, but it's really rare to, have other people rely on you and be a leader. And I don't think until, you get something like that, you really notice it and how hard you're actually working. It's like, oh, these guys really depend on me. Um,
yeah,
and it truly is an honor to be a leader amongst men. It's something that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, and I don't think you could have explained it any better. It's a tremendous honor, and I think also for me, I think that would definitely be my biggest accomplishment as well.
yeah, and you never know the type of impact you have on people, and like just from the things you say or just how you carry yourself in the dining hall or just how you go about your business in the classroom, like those little things at the collegiate level, especially in life in general, like all contribute to the ultimate goal of having a successful team and being a good leader. So hearing things from guys, I'm sure you've heard many time, like just guys coming up to you after the season or texting you like, hey, like I loved watching your work ethic. I loved this speech you gave or whatever you said to the team. Really, really stuck with me, and we like I appreciate it. It's helped me, and that's honestly the fondest memories I have is just connecting with players and people, and
Yeah.
um, so it was for whatever it was, success or not, like I'll always look back as just fond of everything I got to go through in college football.
Yeah, man. And you finished your career there. Your last game was against Post University.
Uh-huh.
Who you threw two touchdown passes against them. You went out on a high note. But I want to get your take. What for people that are maybe in high school who are kind of making this decision between FBS and FCS, or just for the viewer that wants to know, because it's hard to explain that to people. It's like, yeah, this team's D1, but they're like the lower division of D1. It's like hard to explain FBS and FCS.
You're
So for
right.
someone that's played it, what is your like main takeaways from it? How was your experience and what's the difference between those two, division levels, I would say?
I'd say there's honestly a pretty a pretty big difference in terms of player capabilities, speed of the game, um, understanding, resources, all those good things. I'd say as far as playing at the next level, NFL, whatever you want to do, or if you just want to play college football, any high school recruit or anybody considering with what they have, I've looked back at the Georgia State decision and think maybe I should have went FCS and played 2 years, and that could have been better than just playing 1 year. I think playing football and being on the field is the utmost important thing you can do for your career, as you know, for whatever aspirations you have. Um, so if you can go somewhere and play and develop and learn and be on the field in the game, like you're not going to get better if you're a practice player. You're not going to get better. I mean, you'll get better, but you really find your improvement on the field and game time with pressure and making those tough decisions. So I'd say if anyone had a toss up like between going fourth string D1 FBS with amazing resources or FCS second string starter, I'd go FCS just because if you can play, they'll find you. That's really what it boils down to. I mean, we got Tyson Bagent, excellent quarterback for Chicago Bears right now, played last season, D2 guy.
We
Like,
played him.
yeah, you played him when he was at Shepherd.
Yep.
Um, he he's an excellent player, and they found him, and he's doing his thing in the NFL right now. So it doesn't matter what level you're at. If you can play, you can play.
Dude, that guy's a dog. I'm a big fan of his. I really
Yeah.
am. Yeah, he does it. He's just a guy that sticks to the grind. I respect
Hmm.
it, man. And I mean, he kicked our ass. He played us at Southern, dude. He kicked our ass.
Yeah, I heard when I was talking to Robert Burns when he was with Chicago, he was telling me about Tyson. I don't know if you met Rob, but he was at UConn. He was telling me about Tyson and just his leadership qualities and like how he was running walkthroughs when he first got there as a rookie. And dude's a great dude. So like honestly, it comes down to if you're a leader, if you put in the work and if you can play. So
Yeah, and I kind of want to get your take on this too, because I feel like this kind of spans whether you go FBS, SEC, or you go Division 3, whatever. I think if I'm a recruit and I got all these schools asking me to go here, go here, go here, I think playing time is very important for sure. I
mhm.
think going where they want you, but I also think that a winning program is also very important. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
for me, I've been to 3 schools. I've never won more than 4 or 5 games, I think, in a season. And it's not really like the winning, it's more of how people rally around you and rally around the team when you are winning. And it's just better
Yeah.
atmosphere, and that leads to better financials, better resources. And like I said, we were at UConn when it was tough. And the rent wasn't filled out all the time, and it was hard to get people to buy into that when you weren't producing on the field. So what is your take on that if a kid's deciding between like playing time or going to a winning program or something like that?
That's a great question, honestly. I grew up playing NCAA as a kid, going to the worst school and rebuilding it to, a national contender. So like I think when I made my decision to go to UConn when they were struggling, I was like, all right, we're gonna go in, we're gonna revamp this program. Um, but I will say this, having gone to programs that are struggling, there are major reasons why they're struggling. There's glaring issues at hand. There are things that are, I don't want to say unfixable, but things that are kind of cemented in a little bit that are very difficult to overcome when you're just a player. So if you have, say a really bad FCS program to decide between and a really good D1 program, and today's day and age of college football, the transfer portal is hot. So if you can go like to a really good Division 1 program, put in your time a little bit, develop, and then go somewhere where you can play a successful program, I'd say that would be the better route since transferring is becoming widely acceptable nowadays and it's really not an afterthought at this point. Um, I think there's a lot of value in being a loyal player and sticking it out with the program. But like I mentioned, like you got to do what's best for you, and I would avoid going to a program that's in a period of struggling unless you know they're having a new coaching staff coming in, new good recruiting class. Like take a look at what other players are being recruited. I think that's important too, like understanding what kind of talent is coming in with you. Be a scout for a day or two, go through and see, and just see all your options. There's just so many different factors. We could talk for hours and hours about this,
Yeah.
um, to really give a black and white answer because it's never black and white. But I'd say you just got to do what's best for you. Um, and at the end of the day, I'd say, relationships, if they want you, if you're going to play early, is really at the top of the list for me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I had that same when I came to Southern, I was the exact same thought
Mm,
process. Like, this team has been kind of struggling, not awful, but like they haven't been the best. They didn't beat their rivals, University of New Haven for, a couple of years. I wanted to come in, I wanted to be that guy to change it, coming from an FBS school, being like a high level, transfer guy coming into a D2 school. I was like, I'm gonna change this. Little did I know, Southern was the only state funded school in our conference. All the other schools are privately funded, boosters, all that stuff.
oh
So
wow.
our money is dictated by the state system, which is a really, really tough as a player and even as a tight end. At least you're a quarterback. You can kind of dictate the culture a little bit more for just the position I'm in as a tight end. Yeah, you can go in there, you can be a leader. I was a captain, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm not on the field 100% of the time either. Like there's some packages where I'm not even in.
Right.
That's just the nature of the game. So
Right.
it's really tough, and I'm glad we kind of covered that because that is something I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great question, and like I said, there's tons of factors and things that go into that decision, and that's a lifelong decision, that's going to affect you for many years to come. So
Yeah,
it's important. It's an important one.
yeah, but I still enjoyed my time at all three schools that I went to.
Mhm.
It's some programs just getting unfortunate, kind of hand dealt to them, but I think there is opportunity to be seen at those schools as well.
For sure, absolutely.
So what's next for you, man? What's next for, your football career after college?
Yeah, so I've been training. I put in 2 months back earlier this year with some professional training, some combine stuff for pro day prep. Had a really good pro day, honestly. I had a few tryouts, local pro day tryouts, with the Jets and the Giants, and I got invited to New England, but I couldn't go to New England because it was the same day as the Giants. I ended up going with the Giants because they invited me first. Um, but got some opportunities there. I thought I did pretty well. I threw the ball around well, especially with the Jets. Just didn't, the phone didn't ring. Unfortunately, got some offers to play like arena league football. Uh, wasn't really wasn't really interested in that at the time. So right now there's a UFL tryout coming up in September, and I'll be seeing my guy Micah Leon, former UConn, former podcast guest.
Yep,
I'll
friend
be
of the
seeing
show.
him. Yep, I'll be seeing him there, and that's pretty exciting. So that's next on the list for me, and also have gotten a couple of offers to play overseas, Germany, Italy, some cool spots. Their football's starting to pop over there too, so that could be a cool opportunity. But really, just kind of putting everything in prepping for this tryout in late September. So.
Yeah, have you considered those overseas leagues? I've heard of them, and when I was healthy, I was considering them. But where do you stand on that? I think it's a cool opportunity, depending on like obviously your contract, your living situation, all that. But I think it's a pretty cool opportunity.
I think it's awesome. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you met David Pindell. He was the
No, but I know
starting
who he is.
quarterback. Yeah, he was the starting quarterback at UConn my freshman season. He's been playing in Japan for 4 years now, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And I mean, I just looked at his Snapchat story the other day. He's taking all these cool videos in Japan and like seeing the world and seeing some awesome things, having success in that league. Um, obviously from a contract standpoint, from a pay standpoint. I don't know what David makes, but I know that it's not as much as the NFL. I know it's not as much as the CFL. Those overseas leagues, they're not as popular. So, being a media guy yourself, views and audience is what makes your money, So um, there is some really good leagues, though. I've heard Germany has some of the best football as far as overseas football goes.
Yep.
There's the European League of Football. There's the Germany League. Um, and it's all based on like benefits as far as travel expenses, room, car, phone. Like they pay for pretty much everything, and then you get a small salary kind of off of that. So to have that opportunity to go travel the world, play football, and get everything essentially paid for, is something that I'm definitely considering, and something that I appreciate, even having the chance to pursue.
Yep.
So, the end goal is to stay in the US, hopefully find an NFL spot one day, or this, God willing, this UFL tryout goes well. Um, but definitely just something that to consider for sure.
Yeah, well, right now you are SK8 and you're one of the new up and coming streamers in YouTube, TikTok, and everything. So I kind of want to learn more about that as well. Because this is kind of how you're making your name known at the moment through YouTube, through TikTok. You stream playing NCAA football, and then you take viewers on like your player's journey through a recruitment, transfer portal, etc. Kind of throwing in real life, situations and your story at the same time. I think it's an awesome thing that you're doing. And you're also explaining, coverages, showing it through the eyes of a D1 quarterback while you're having fun playing a game. So it's a really, really cool concept. And I kind of wanted to know, when did this start and how was your experience playing, actual college football helped you grow your audience through these platforms?
Yeah, so it all started, and I appreciate that the nice description there of what I do. But it all started when I was at Georgia State. I was in graduate level program for business, but I was in all online classes, so I just had a ton of free time. And I started it in the summer, and it was something that I wanted to make as educational and just kind of a thought I had because I love NCAA football. I already mentioned it earlier about playing it growing up, and it was something that I like nobody had been doing. I've always loved YouTube. I've always loved video games content, that platform in general, and I've always thought about like being a creator or what I could do with it. And I just kind of sat down and brainstormed like one day, like, oh, what can I do, as far as that goes. And I landed on the idea, like, let me just get on football and talk coverages, talk reads. It's like almost like getting mental reps too. So I'm not wasting my time. At least I didn't believe I was. So but there is a good amount of transfer, I'd say. Like it's not obviously like playing in real life, but it is good, and it is kind of mental reps to see coverages and do different plays over and over and over again. So it was really cool, and mainly I just wanted to make it educational, and then it kind of turned into some bigger creators at the time reaching out to me like, hey, we love your stuff, like, if you ever want some pointers, like here's what I think you could do to make it grow or get it to do better. Hell yeah, man. Like let me know. So it started off as something educational that I like to do, then turned into like educational and entertaining. Like, what can I do to make it more entertaining? What can I do to get more eyes on it? And right now, I'm just in a big learning process with the new game coming out, just trying different styles of content, editing techniques. And I do everything myself. I record, commentate, edit, do everything. So it is time consuming, but it's pretty fun process. And I'm glad, some people enjoy watching it.
Yeah, man, and your content is really consistent, which is kind of like for me, that's kind of been my main thing is consistency. How do you stay so consistent with the editing and I see you clip it up too. You post YouTube videos, which is, I definitely got to get better at that for YouTube videos and clipping up stuff. But how do you stay consistent? What's your system?
I just, I try to lay out a schedule, for the week. Like I'll record a couple days, like Monday, Tuesday, then I'll edit Thursday, Friday, try to get a video out. I try to do like one video a week. I need to ramp that up a lot more to
Yeah.
find some more success. But for a while there, it does kind of burn you out, like the editing especially. Um, but just trying to find a balance, like not I had a bad habit of sitting down for 4 or 5 hours at a time and just grinding out an edit. So lately I've been trying to find, pockets of time and stuff I could be more productive in, just as far as editing and creating that content goes.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenging but major learning process, and it's been honestly fun to dive in with no football season to kind of like leaning over my shoulder. So
Yeah.
that's been fun. And it's I'm excited to see where it can go to.
Yeah. Yeah, man. How do you like the new college football game?
I think it's great. I love it. Honestly, there's obviously it's made by EA. I'm not a big fan of EA as a corporation or uh gaming company, but I think it's a great game. I think it's a really good football sim. There's, they added a lot of things like route stems and different coverages, different protections for the O line,
Yeah.
stuff that all translates to real football. So the more they add stuff like that, the happier I'll be.
And I wanted to. Have you always played college football on your channel? I was looking at the most recent stuff going through it, but has it always been college football? I know it was, but like obviously before the 25, it was 14 and stuff like that. But did you ever do
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Madden or any other games?
Yeah, I honestly I started off doing some like a gaming podcast kind of thing on Call of Duty, and basically I had Xavier Scott on there for a couple episodes, and then Xavier Scott and Nate Carter on, and we talked about stuff like mental health, football.
I do remember
um
this. I do remember seeing it. Yeah.
yeah, so I did a few videos on that. I also did a few vlogs. Um, when I got to Georgia State, I did a vlog of like this team tradition where they hike. We all hiked up Stone Mountain. I thought that was really cool and like something that people might want to watch. I vlogged my last week at UConn just as something to kind of look back and like remember. I don't think that video is still live on my channel, but so like I was saying earlier, I have always kind of lean towards like content creation and like just making videos. I don't know, something about that process and just recording, editing stuff I've always loved. So I've just tried to lean into it, and then like I was telling you, like leaning into it and thinking about what I could do with football and how I could maybe do something educational and entertaining. And I landed on NCAA and kind of ran with that when I started seeing some success early on. So
Yeah. What are your top college football? What are your top three college football games of all time?
oh man, I obviously college football 25, the brand new games
Yeah.
on that list, NCAA 14. And um, I think when I was growing up, one of my favorites I would always go back to was NCAA '09. And
Was
that's
that
like,
was that the one with Kellen Moore? Was that 08? I think.
I can't remember, honestly, so long ago. I'm really showing my age with that one. But '09, I don't know, some like just playing Road to Glory on that one. I have fun memories, in my old house and stuff. So that was a really fun game.
Let's see. Oh nine. That was Darren McFadden. Oh, yep, yep. That one was sick. I
Yeah.
had, I'll tell you, I'll even push it back even farther. My first game I ever got, like ever, was, well, I had Madden '04 was an absolute first, but the one that I really remember from my childhood was NCAA '05 with Larry Fitzgerald on the cover. And I remember they had this feature where you can go back into like classic games like Doug Flutie, like the Doug
Oh,
Flutie game,
really?
recreate the plays and
That's
recreate them.
that's so cool.
It was so cool, man. I hope they bring that back with the new college football games coming off. I really do. That was such a cool mode.
Yeah.
But one thing talking about college football, let's bring it back to real life. One huge thing this year was the college football playoff. How do you like that? I'm a big fan of it. I think I've been saying for a long time it should have been a bracket. I know they kept it, they kind of saw how it was with 4 teams the last couple of years. I love how they expanded it to 12 teams. It is a lot more games and a lot more play for those
Yeah.
teams, but um, I think as a fan, I think it's a great move.
I think so too. I think there's a lot of football that's going to be played, and it's going to be how can teams kind of keep that longevity of their best players healthy, and there's going to be new strategies involved in that regard. But I think it's great for the game. I think it's great for college football, and obviously, the more football, the better in terms of looking at it from outside in. So,
And I think we have like March Madness, right? We have the brackets, and there's upsets every year. I
mhm.
don't think there's going to be that many upsets in the 12 team bracket. I mean, obviously, you might have a couple of Power Five teams that are facing each other that might be a lower seed, but like if you're
Yeah.
talking about like a non-group, like a group of five team, playing, an SEC school or an ACC school or something like that, and they win, I think they're going to become rarer. But I think popularity behind those teams, people are going to back them so much more. Like
Oh
people
yeah.
are huge fans of those teams.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be like that. The playoff in general is just gonna be some of the best football you can watch. It's gonna be amazing to witness and see, especially in our lifetime, just being the first ones to witness it, because I think it's gonna be something that continues on for years and years. So it's gonna be exciting to watch.
What teams do you think benefit most from it?
Um, I mean, obviously, like you just mentioned, the group of fives, like the smaller teams that aren't going to get that 1 to 4 ranking just because of their schedule, just because of their like. I mean, looking back at UCF, how they claimed the national championship. Like now, like a team like that
Yeah.
went undefeated is really going to have a chance to compete for the national championship. So I think just smaller programs like that and building their fan bases is going to be major for the game and for those schools and just the whole NCAA in general. So I think it was a smart move overall.
Yeah, and I was seeing something, and this can honestly benefit UConn as well if they really turn that program around. But the independent schools also kind of have an advantage as well, like Notre Dame, because the top four seeds are always going to be, I think it's like the conference winner of like the Big 12, ACC, SEC, Big 10, and those are always going to be the teams with the bye. But then you have
Hmm.
that fifth seed who's going to play the lowest seed. So you have like someone like Notre Dame who can go undefeated, maybe lose one or two games, be that fifth seed, and just kind of keep playing those group of five teams till they get to the final four
Absolutely, dude. And I'm gonna be an underdog like supporter the whole way
the
through.
whole
I
way through.
I love an underdog story, man. So it's gonna be exceptional football. It's gonna be really just fun to watch. I can't wait.
Well, speaking of underdogs, the Detroit Lions. How about these guys? Almost going to the Super Bowl last year. And I bring that up because you are from Michigan and you're a
Yes.
diehard Lions fan.
Yes, sir. Die-hard Lions fan. Grew up in Michigan. Uh, really just love and support Detroit sports in general. Like I was a hockey, like we were a hockey family first, and I'm actually named after Steve Yzerman, a really famous Red Wing. So we just love Detroit sports in my house, and I've always loved the Lions as bad as they've been for the last hundreds of years. Like how long, never been to a Super Bowl. Seeing them last season almost get that chance was heartbreaking to see how they went up so quickly in the game and then kind of let it get away from them. Moment got too big, but I think with Dan Campbell at the helm and some of the revamped things they're doing on defense and I'm a believer in Jared Goff. I think they'll have another successful season, and I really hope they do.
I'm a believer in Jared Goff as well. I think he's a really solid quarterback. I love Amon-Ra. I wanted to get him in the fantasy football draft this year. Couldn't snag him. Went too early. Um, but I'm a big fan of his. And I kind of want to ask you a question. I didn't have this written down or anything, but you just mentioned it. You're a Detroit family, like Detroit sports family. And I've like
Yeah.
never heard that before because I've spent my entire life in the Northeast and I've heard of like we're diehard New York fans, we're diehard Boston fans. Where do you think, and you've spent time in the Northeast, obviously, in both upstate Connecticut, which is kind of like Boston area, and then
Right.
Staten Island, New York. So you've been around. Where do you kind of rank like the Detroit fandom when it comes to like Boston and New York and all those other? I know Pittsburgh is kind of like another one, but I just never heard of the Detroit fan base. But I love it, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean it's few and far between being a Detroit sports fan currently. So if you do see a Detroit sports fan, just know they're loyal. So that I love a loyal fan, and I don't like bandwagons. So if you want to be a bandwagon, that's fine. Support whatever team you want, but I'm a Detroit guy, through and through to the day I die. So um, I don't know, man. Just something about going to those games growing up and having that experience as a kid and really just kind of diving into the history of those teams and the history of the city through sports was always something that stuck with me. And I think it's stuck with the Detroit fandom. I don't know specifically too much about other, fan bases in particular, but I'd say Detroit, once we get rolling, they can get pretty rowdy, they can get pretty supportive, and it's a good city to be in if they're having success.
I love it, man. Last time we had Micah on the podcast, you mentioned earlier, we did a little Mount Rushmore action. Kind of want to do the same thing here with you. I was wondering if you can give me two Mount Rushmores. We'll start with the first one.
Okay.
What's your Mount Rushmore of Lions players? And I know Barry Sanders is on the list. He was before me and you were born, but if you can keep it to guys you've just seen play, I kind of have some guys in mind too, but I want to hear yours.
Right. So I gotta go with Barry Sanders, obviously. Um, and my favorite player of all time from Detroit is got to be Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Um, he's my favorite. I think current players I've watched that I think are really good. I think Aiden Hutchinson has a really, really good chance at just, Michigan guy, born in Michigan,
Mhm.
played at U of M, um, drafted by Detroit early round, so I think he's a diehard guy. I think he has the potential to become one of the greats at Detroit. So I'll throw him on there. I'm trying to think who else. Um, I mean, Dan Campbell played for the Lions, but um, let's see. I gotta give some love to the defense too, right?
You got it. You can.
Um,
It's up to you.
I wanna, Ndamukong Suh was one I used to watch. He's a beast. I don't know if he makes the Mount Rushmore though. Let's see.
There's one guy
Matt.
who I'm thinking that you're kind of leaving out, but I don't want to pinch a nerve or anything here.
No, no, no. Throw his name out because I'm struggling.
Matty Stafford.
Oh yeah, well, Matty Stafford
I know he's a
is
little bit.
obviously the GOAT of quarterbacks for the Lions. Um, yeah, he definitely deserves a spot, Mount Rushmore. Yeah.
I know. What were you guys? I mean, where are you at on Matt Stafford as a fan base? You guys hate him, love him still?
Oh, I love him. I love
Yeah,
him, man. What he did for Detroit and like the grittiness of his gameplay. I think about that play all the time where he hurt his shoulder and then went back in. He's
yeah,
like this and he's like, I'm going in. He throws a touchdown. Um, he's somebody I've always looked up to as a quarterback as well. And I'm excited. I hope he's close to like 60,000 yards, getting to 60,000 yards this upcoming season. I think he's like 3,900 away. Dude, I wish him all the success.
yeah.
Yeah, my dad actually met Matt Stafford.
Really?
Yeah, my dad, when he was working as a police officer, got called to his house one time. So
Oh
yeah, he
boy.
got to meet him. Yeah, it was like a prank call or something.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was like a prank call. Got to meet him, but yeah, I've always looked up to Matt Stafford. He definitely deserves a spot on the Mount Rushmore. I was thinking more current players. I think.
Yeah, I think Aiden Hutchinson has a chance to be one of the goats of Detroit Lions football. He's a beast. Amon-Ra, I think, is also a beast too. Uh,
Yeah,
and then if Jared Goff wins you guys a Super Bowl, Matt Stafford's history.
yeah. Unfortunately, man, I would have loved to see Matt Stafford. I mean, he got his Super Bowl already, and I'm happy for that. I would have loved to see him get it with the Lions, though.
Wouldn't that be a payoff, huh? Both of
Oh
them
yeah,
win.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
and then I had a Mount Rushmore of the worst Lions players of all time. I had
Worst Lions players.
I
Oh
had
man.
I had I made my own here and you can't go off. I had Joey Harrington,
Okay.
Dan Orlovsky
Yeah, Dan Orlovsky was going to be my first pick.
ran out of the back of the end zone. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, come on.
I had the entire 2008 team. Just everyone is on.
Throw them all on there.
And then I had Ndamukong Suh, but as a kicker, because he did go in and kick and shanked a field goal in the preseason once.
That's a pretty good list, Tim. I got to give you props. That's pretty good, man.
Um, but all right, man. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome catching up with you, dude.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for having me on and wishing you continued success with this. And I hope anyone who tuned in is enjoying the conversation. Dude,
And,
definitely a blessing to have me on though.
and we're gonna have to have you and Micah back on. Tell us how that experience it goes in September and how you guys do, and we're gonna have to follow up with that for sure.
Absolutely, man.
All right. Well, Steve Krajewski, former college football quarterback, joining the podcast. Thank you, man, for taking the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tim.